just pumped out an absolute exquisite back day. Should have seen it, bro. Anyways, this is part 2 of water. I genuinely don't even mean to make these videos super long. I just yap too much. Anyways, let's just get straight into this, bro. So, a key thing about water, and this is kind of apparent in most of its properties, is its hydrogen bond. So, if you haven't seen part 1, which, why the hell would you be watching a part 2 if you haven't seen part 1? But if you haven't, you need to watch that, because the hydrogen bond is really important. So on their own, right, these hydrogen bonds may not be super strong, but when they are like very high in quantity, so many of them, that's when they get super strong, right? And that brings us to its other property, which is it has a high specific heat capacity. Now, what the bloody bollocks does this mean? Well, simply put, these hydrogen bonds can absorb so much energy before breaking. There's a reason why it boils at 100 degrees Celsius. They can absorb so much energy before breaking. And this property is so important because, say, in the wild, right? Look at aquatic life, right? Like, I know this is so boring, but basically fish, right? I love fish. Fish, they can do all right in the water because, say, the temperature starts to soar, like it's a sunny day, and because of that, the temperature starts to rise, but the water stays constant. The water stays stable. The temperature is stable, and because of that, the temperature doesn't change rapidly. So these fish, right, they can stay all right. So if you do know a fish personally, they'll tell you it's a stable environment, okay? The temperature isn't changing rapidly. It stays stable, and they can have a good habitat due to this property of the hydrogen bond being able to absorb energy, a lot of energy. And this also has a good function with people as well, humans, and that is sweating. So the reason why we sweat is because obviously we get hot, and when we get hot, we need to release this energy and cool down, and so we sweat. So water comes out of our skin, and due to that, it absorbs energy so that we can cool down. And this is really important, bro. Think of the water as kind of like a good Samaritan, right? He takes the energy for us so that we don't have to get burdened with it, so that we are overheating, right? The water takes it for us. And that's why we sweat. And if you do know a human personally, which I don't really know them, but if you do, you'll know that this is what makes humans super dangerous, and in kind of some regard, some of the most dangerous species, is because of our ability to sweat. So when we sweat, we can just cool down rapidly, whereas most animals, they don't do that. Like, say for example, like a dog doesn't sweat from their body, they sweat from their paws. And because there's only little surface area for the doggos to sweat, that makes it not good enough for them to cool down like humans. And because of this, humans can essentially run forever, right? And that may be a tiny exaggeration, but if you look at it, bro, humans can basically run for forever because we can constantly sweat and cool ourselves down. Like, for example, a cheetah can't really do that because they overheat and they have to stop. Whereas humans, we can just run forever. And because of that, when we chase a prey, we can just chase them basically forever until the prey just kind of gets tired and gives up. And that's a really cool function. So yeah, I'm just yapping like an old man in a care home. But yeah, that is a very important function. Learn that. Hydrogen bonds absorb energy, we sweat, good habitat, blah blah blah. Now let's get onto its other function. So another property about our good little boy water is that it is a very good solvent. Now what am I yapping about this time? So simply put, a solvent is something that is good at dissolving things into it. Say I stole some cotton candy and then I dumped it in some water. It dissolves instantly. And this is really, really important, bro. Alright, to see how this works, let's take a substance, okay? And this is something you've done in GCSE. Let's take a substance, for example, an ionic substance. So, sodium chloride or salt, right? So we take sodium chloride. Sodium is positively charged and chlorine is negatively charged. When you put these in water, they start to dissociate. They split apart from each other. Why? Because the polar nature of water, like we said, we discussed polar before, but the polar nature of water, because water is slightly charged, they pull it apart from each other. They pull them apart. It's pretty gruesome, but what happens here is they start to gang up on these ions, okay? And they start to do things to the ions that I can't talk about on this channel. But say the sodium ion, the positively charged sodium ion, you can pretty much guess what happens. The slight negative charge on oxygen gangs up on the sodium ion and it kind of bonds with it. Whereas the chlorine, the negatively charged chlorine ion, that water gangs up on it. The hydrogen, the slightly positively charged hydrogen is attracted to the negatively charged chlorine ion. And this goes for many things, but basically, so water is good at dissolving things, right? Especially if it has a charge or a slight charge. So if something is polar or ionic, then it is definitely dissolving in water. If something is not ionic, so, I don't know, take for example a covalent structure, like a diamond. They don't dissolve in water because they aren't charged. So, learn that, bro. Learn that water is a very good solvent. It can carry things. If it dissolves in it, it can carry stuff in it. And that's what happens in our body, bro. In our blood, we have water, and it can carry shit in it. So, yeah, bro, learn that. So another thing about these bad boys is a big property about them is that they are something called a metabolite. Now, I promise I'm not making up words, okay? This is a real thing. Now, a metabolite means it is used in chemical reactions. So bro, the most common chemical reactions that water really undergoes, and this is something you'll learn in a later topic, but it can break big molecules apart. You have a massive molecule here, and you throw water at it like a spell, and just like wizardry, it just breaks it apart. And we just call this hydrolysis. And don't worry too much about the names, because you'll learn this in a later topic. So learn that water is a metabolite. It is used in many, many, many chemical reactions. Alright then, bro. That's basically it. Water is a very easy topic, not a very long video. And I won't really bother too much with the exam questions either, because they're very, very easy. They basically just ask you, yo, bro, just repeat what I said, memorization. Yeah, basically it. Subscribe the video, like, all that bollocks, and I'll see you soon, bro.